Hello, happy Wednesday. I'm really excited today to have another Power Up conversation. And this time today, we're going to be doing it with Sara Smith. Sara is with Hope Creative and really is the magic behind the beautiful designs of Atheneum Collective. So I'm really excited to have her join me today. And we're going to talk about being creative and what it means to be a creative today. And what does it mean to be creative in a pandemic, which I think is an interesting conversation to have right now. So Sara's going to be joining me shortly. So I'm just waiting for her. And I know she is jumping on, but I'm excited because I always like to talk about to people who are creative. It's something that I personally have always said. I don't feel like I'm a very creative person, but I think that in a way everyone is creative. So I think there is a lot of opportunity for us to all kind of find out what we're good at and what we're creative at. And I'm excited to talk to somebody who truly is what I think a creative person. I hear her saying here, so now she just has to join me. There she is. And we're waiting for her to connect. And uh-oh, what happened? Try again, Sara. I think we can do this. Okay, here we go. Go live. It's happening. We're waiting. We're connecting. Yay!
Yay! Hello.
How are you?
Wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. I was just doing a little intro of who you are and how amazing you are and how creative you are. And I'm so excited you're here.
Talk. Thank you.
You know, it's funny because I realize I have a lot of conversations and I don't always talk about what I think is one of the most critical parts of the business that we're in is the creative part of it and the creativity part of it. And as somebody who is just so talented with design and bringing something to life in a creative and a visual way, I'm really excited to have you here today to talk about this.
Well, thank you, Lisa.
So what I wanted to do was kind of start with just a little bit about your background. You know, who you are, how you got into this business, kind of a little bit about when did you know you were creative and like, how did that sort of come into being?
Well, I have been a true creative ever since I could walk, basically. And both my grandmother and my mom were very supportive of this. You guys remember in the you could like draw something and send it off. I mean, those are the kind of things I would do during the summer with my grandmother. So I was lucky in that way to be very supported in my creative journey. And then, you know, that fast forward to me becoming a theater major and sort of, you know, expressing my creativity in a different way. And then graphic design naturally sort of emerged and then came branding and marketing.
So when you, I guess you start out sort of realizing that you have this creative flair, right? You know, you could go a lot of different directions. Why did you go sort of this advertising and marketing way? Like, what was what did you say? Wow, this is amazing industry, or did you fall into it, or was it intentional?
It was not intentional at all, just like a lot of things in my life. Kind of have a dumb luck philosophy, and it works sometimes. But actually, I always tell the story. It's really funny that I am a designer because my mom told me to be. Um, I was originally a theater major, you know, probably begging for money too often, off at school in Arizona. And my mom called one day and she's like, you know, have you heard of this graphic design thing? It's this kind of new computer art. Just go humor me, go to the guidance counselor, learn about it. And at this time, we were still on dial-up.
I remember those days.
Oh yeah, and try Photoshop. I mean, it would take 4 hours to do one action, and I didn't even know how to work a computer at that time, so I would just be crying all through school. Um, and then I had worked brand side mostly until I moved to Los Angeles, got involved with Think LA, and then now it's marketing advertising all day, every day.
Yeah, it's interesting just to see kind of how that has grown. Now, when you first started out, because I know when you were in Atlanta, you also were very involved in the very beginning of what is cannabis today. So how did that manifest itself, and what did that mean from a creative point of view?
That's a really funny question. So back then it was called hydroponics, right? Cannabis is kind of our grown up adult legalized word. But at the time I was working at a small chain of garden stores, hydroponic stores. And I just knew when I graduated college that I didn't want to go corporate. And, I was very idealistic, most 20 somethings year olds are. But in Atlanta, the logical choice when you graduate with art or marketing or something like that is Coca-Cola, Home Depot. These are kind of
Yeah.
the way to go, Turner, right? And I just knew that I didn't want to sell people things that they didn't want, not saying those companies do. And I eventually did go to Home Depot. But I just kind of wanted to do something different. So went into at that time, hydroponic industry. Um, and learned a ton just about gardening and the future of food and farming and kind of all of these things. However, I was pretty pigeonholed, and I wanted to expand my career. I wanted to grow. At that time, I was creative director of this, small chain of retail stores, but I wanted to work for a big fish and be a, small fish in a big pond, so to speak. So kind of erased that from my resume and did Home Depot and some other things here and there. Moved to Los Angeles and cannabis goes legal.
Right, right.
Now I have this really unique skill set and opportunity to put it back on my LinkedIn and pitch myself as an expert in that vertical, which has been really great for myself and the co-op.
It's so interesting because I never realized that hydroponics meant, that you could grow cannabis under that name. I don't think I realized that. I don't even think I know what hydroponics means. What does it mean?
So hydroponics
Listening.
is not actually growing cannabis.
Okay.
Hydroponics is growing plants without soil or with
Oh.
soil. And so the roots don't have to seek out nutrients. They just kind of get to sit there and be fed nutrients, which means less work on the roots and more work on the plant. It is more expensive. And so many people for a very long time, the only people using hydroponic farming were big, large scale farmers growing our vegetables in the grocery store or cannabis farmers because they had the budget. Right.
Right. Oh, that's so interesting.
It's all about the yield, though. So hydroponic will be a bigger yield.
Got it. Okay, well, good. For those people listening who are like, I have no idea what that means. But I think it's interesting how all of that sort of parlays into what you're doing today. Looking back, though, I'd be curious when you think about sort of, the hydroponics and you go to the, of the Home Depot. Did you find that there was an experience that provided a way to be more creative, or was I don't know, was it stifling to maybe be in a bigger corporation when you're creative? I have no idea. I'm just curious.
Oh, going from small business to large.
Yeah.
Yes. So I had always kind of worked in the supply chain side of things, and we actually got some of our equipment into Home Depot, which is how I ended up making the leap over there. And yeah, you go from I was leading maybe a 3-person creative team at the hydro store to being part of our entire web team was hundreds of people, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And I will say that I think it's very beneficial to go work brand side and to be part of kind of one of those large conglomerates. But it took forever to get anything done. There's so much red tape. Now, let's say if it's a small business or, a smaller brand, you can go to the website, make a quick change, and it's done. But at these big corporations, as you know, being brand side yourself, it's like, you submit a ticket and 14 people have to approve the typo. So I think for my personality and kind of how quickly I like to work, it's not for me, but there were some learnings there.
So, which totally makes sense. Now, you move towards, you come to LA, you are part of Think LA. And for people who don't know, I mean, if you listen to me, then you probably do know about Think LA because I talk about it all the time, which is our local ad club here in Los Angeles. And when you came to Los Angeles, you were the creative director, CMO of Think LA, correct?
That's correct. I worked my way up. I started just kind of filling in as a temp. At the time I was freelancing full time and I had no interest in a day job, but they won me over. So
And so you were there for a while and then you decided to take a big leap and create your own agency. What was sort of I mean, when you think back of how you kind of started, did you always know that you wanted to work on your own and kind of create your own thing? Or was that something that sort of evolved over time?
it evolved over time and it evolved out of just a personal need of kind of freedom and responsibility and sovereignty over my own schedule and calendar. When I left, I was in Atlanta doing the hour commute, 8 hour workday, hour commute home.
Right.
And I had had enough. So kind of quit my corporate job, moved to California. I did a little traveling in between. But mostly it was out of I'm lucky to have a lot of friends who are business owners and who needed work. And I just kept getting referrals to the point where I couldn't do all the work anymore. So I just kept tagging people in and here we are.
I love it. I mean, I thank God because I feel like so much of my business has become so tied to your creativity. And I think I'm so fortunate that you can take ideas and make them so beautifully visually beautiful. And I just think that's such a hard, personally, I think it's such a hard thing to do. And I'm curious, I want to talk about just the creative part of who you are. Like, how do you know that when somebody gives you an idea, what it's going to look like creatively? Like, do you know it in your mind or does it free flow? Or like, what is the process that you use to really to get these ideas into these beautiful formats?
Well, first, I just want to back up a little bit and say thank you for the compliment. And there is a team.
Yes, of course.
In fact, I was responsible for much of the branding direction, but Olivia actually does lots of the designing now, which I will say is one of my favorite parts of being a creative is mentoring people. So that's been fun. But in terms of the creative process, it kind of varies client to client and project to project. And it's funny, I was just having a conversation with a colleague a few days ago. Most of my creative process is done not during work hours. It's in the shower, on a walk with a dog, late night watching something that reminds me of something that makes me think of a funny skit to write for a bit or something. But I think we, in this culture in particular, are so rushed and it's like perform, answer that email within the next hour. And to me, these things kind of quell your creativity. So I like to sort of have long blocks of time, even if it's after work hours, to let that marinate.
So do you ever find that when you have something due, like, does that almost stop the like knowing you have to do something? Like, does that quell sometimes the creative juices? I know for me, you're right. I have the best ideas when I'm taking a shower or going for a walk where I'm not involved in the actual work. I'm just separated from it and I have this ability to think.
Space.
But you tell me if something is due tomorrow, it's like all of a sudden I feel forced and it doesn't come out.
Well, you're creative. I'm here to tell you because it's that rebellion, I think, that makes us sort of creative. My mom likes to call it spirited, but
well, there's different kinds of creativity too. Like, it's funny because I used to always define myself as never being like, I am so not creative, but I realized that I am creative in different ways. Like I admire people like you who can take what you see and visually produce something beautiful. Like that to me is just, I can see it in my head. I just can't figure out how to get it out into something. And that's what I think is so interesting is that you're so good at that. But let's say you have a deadline, then how do you force yourself to get it out of your head?
I call it the trained monkey scenario, and we're not trained monkeys,
Yeah.
because sometimes.
I think hold on.
Right.
You might have to repeat that. We had a little connection issue.
Oh, I was just talking about the trained monkey. Like a lot of times creatives it's like, okay, now go. And you're supposed to just come up with these brilliant things. Um, so deadlines can be very challenging. And I will be transparent and say they often get missed, and it is sometimes because we just can't get there, and
Right.
the idea comes on a weekend, on a Sunday after Super Bowl, which happened this weekend,
Now, I'd be curious, what was the inspiration from Super Bowl that made you
Uh,
an idea come to you?
it was actually Puppy Bowl, and we have a new client that is a social club, like a pet sitting social club. So, I mean, I don't want to give away our trade secrets or anything.
Yeah, but but it was
We had a content.
you're watching something that inspired you. That's so
That's
fun.
right, just seeing a visual.
That's awesome. Now, because creativity is personal, right? Like you have to take your interpretation of somebody's mission or values or product or whatever and create something, right? Do you ever find that are you ever afraid or worried about the critique you might get, or like do you ever take it personally? Because I think of when you create something, there is a personal amount of you that goes into that. I'm just curious, do you do that, and how do you handle things like that?
Sara earlier in her career, absolutely yes. Sara this late in her career, not at all. And I will say, when you go to art school, every class has a critique. Oh, I mean, they take you through it. So by the end, you have pretty thick skin, and they're preparing you for mean dragon lady art director.
So funny.
So, I have that already. And I think now, to your point on deadlines, it's like if a client wants what a client wants and they're not listening to our team about what we happen to think is the best solution, then at the end of the day, the client kind of is right. So we just do it. And it's like, I don't have time to argue. I'll argue,
right.
but if you don't value it, then, we'll use Comic Sans. Just kidding. We won't do that.
Or Times New Roman.
Or Times New Roman.
That's so funny. So the other question I was going to ask you is, so now, we're in COVID, right? We're in the middle of a pandemic. There's not as many, inspiration comes from a lot of different places. And I feel like sometimes when you're out and about and stuff, like you have this, I don't know, for me, I have more opportunities to be inspired by other people, by things around me. When I'm stuck at home, there are times where it's hard, and I'm just curious with COVID, how have you coped with sort of keeping those creative juices flowing? How do you keep from, not getting, I don't want to say down, but like not letting that affect you from a creative point of view?
Well, that's a great question. And the truth is it did affect me quite a bit. Um, for sure. For me, I like to travel and I like to have adventures, even if it's just, going apple picking on the weekend or something.
Yeah.
But to your point, out in the world, right? Meeting people, seeing strange and unusual things. And we weren't able to do that. And actually, not that this is a solution for everyone, but I just moved. Like I needed new scenery. So that is an option. But I've been watching a lot of like music documentaries and artist documentaries and kind of foreign travel films and things. And I'll find myself just like, I'll have a French night, submerge myself. And you feel a little different, it's like, oh, okay. I can go on vacation and experience something different in COVID.
That's cool. So you actually use like TV and shows and things like that to kind of like sort of have the, adventure through, maybe a different means versus yourself. I always find that for me, like exercise really matters.
Getting
You
out.
know, getting outside, walking the dog, you know, doing my Peloton now is my new, like, I have amazing thoughts like when all that's happening, because you get your body moving and you start to think about different things. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, the endorphins are real. You know, even on our day-to-day commute, we were kind of rushing and getting places and getting that kind of rush, which we're not getting here at our desk. So, yeah, getting out. I just got a new puppy, so we've been getting out more and more, and that's really nice.
Yeah, I think that's great. And also, like, now you're in a place where you can move from even just moving room to room. Like, I find that, and I've actually gotten into a habit where I don't do it enough, but there's no reason I can't go outside with my laptop. I can't, you know, be at the kitchen table versus the office, and different places allow you to focus differently. And that helps get the creative going. But I'm really bad sometimes and I just don't do it because it's the inertia, right? It's easier to stay where you are.
It's true. It's true. And have that spark and ignore it. I'm curious, do you make playlists at all?
You know, it's so funny. I do listen to music, and I like to just have Pandora do it for me. So I'll do you know, whatever I'm in the mood for, and I'll just have it on in the background. And I do find, because when I got the Peloton, you know, Peloton is so based on the music that it completely changes my day if I've had a great music experience.
Yeah, it pumps
I
you.
love it.
It can take you out of the deepest funk or, you know,
But again, it's like the inertia of having to do those things, even though you know they're the right thing to do. Sometimes we get in the habit of doing the things that really don't help us.
getting out of your own way.
Yes, exactly. And I feel like with creativity, especially, we are the hold ourselves probably back the most.
Absolutely. And play it safe oftentimes in a world where right now we don't have to play it safe anymore. And how cool is that? Maybe,
Yeah.
or we're
And
getting that.
when you just say that playing it safe, like, how would you define not, you know, the difference between playing it safe and not playing it safe?
Um, I will use one of our co-op members as a great example, um, in that, you know, this person's social media is hysterical and there's all these political commentary, you know, things going on. And it's really interesting. Um, you know, very much using their voice as a platform because we are our own personal brands, right? But I think it's 2020 and we would actually be doing the world a favor if we all kind of said what we were thinking and
Mm-hmm.
brought our own personal values and brands and POV into, you know, into sight, whereas we had to hide it for so long, especially in a professional setting, you know.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. What would you say is your brand?
Sarah Pran?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's evolving. It used to kind of be that digital magic and it was more of the creative and the content creation, but I have to say I'm doing less and less of that now and more mentoring and leading. um, so I would say you know, a magical creative leader.
I like that. That's great. And you know what's so fun is that you recognize that it evolves, because the truth is it's always going to continue to evolve. Now, do you find as much satisfaction out of leading as you do with doing, like, actually doing the creation?
I think it's equal for me. I mean, I still create on my own time. It might be something else, not work related or client related. But for me, seeing someone get it and seeing their creative juices flow and you know, have an idea and it just be absolutely mind blowing, brilliant, something that I never would have thought of in a million years. I get great satisfaction out of seeing those eureka moments. And here at Hope Creative, we're a co-op and we're quite small. So we're all learning different things all the time. You know, people may have come in as a copywriter, but now they know a little bit of web design, for example. We all wear a lot of hats. And that's been really fun to see how people maybe were in the wrong roles altogether. You know,
Mm-hmm. Well, I also feel like if you give people freedom to discover additional talents and things that they're good at without being judged, I think people will do more than you expect, right? So if you're in a place where you're in this co-op, right, and everyone's working towards the same goal, and you're not there just because you're the copywriter, you're there because you're a participant in something bigger, right? That you have the ability to understand, wow, I can do Canva, or I can, you know, do SEO, or whatever it happens to be. Like that, if you give people the freedom, I think that they are willing to do so much more and can do more, right?
That's right. That's right. And you know, your business is totally based on this model of helping people to power up and to learn, and that's the thing, is there's enough to go around. We can teach everyone everything, and we don't need to covet, you know. I think that the more that, to your tagline, the more we share knowledge, the more
Yeah.
just as a whole.
Nice plug, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Um, so going back to just like this, the creative, and you know, when you were mentioning before that sometimes on your off hours you do other things. Like what are some of the, like, do you paint? Do you sculpt? Do you, like, what else do you do besides graphic design that helps you get out that creative part of you?
So, long ago, when I told you the story about how my mom thought I would be a great graphic designer,
Mm-hmm.
it's because at that time, no judgment, this was high school, you know, I was doing graffiti and tagging. Uh,
Oh, wow. The
like,
rebel.
so often I'll just doodle with markers, put my Prismacolor markers, and just, you know, kind of doodle, not for any other reason other than it's fun. I also really love to make stationery. Not a big money maker, but it's fun to make cute greeting cards. I've been known to weave crystal dream catchers in my spare time.
Wow, I had no idea. And we should say you've created an amazing, beautiful journal, the Cannabis
I
Discovery Journal, called Go Higher.
absolutely, and that honestly, I we do create graphics just for fun all the time. So there's a journal called the Go Higher Journal, and it's made for all of our moms and us. But basically, it's an effects journal. So if you take a CBD, or, you know, try a new strain of cannabis or something, you can document those feelings. So it's good for medical patients. It's also good for just self psychology, and we have recipes and coloring mandalas. So
It's really cool because I think it's one of the where I have mine right here. A little shameless plug. Here it is. It's
I
on Etsy.
That's one of my favorite things to do, though, is to create products, stickers, T-shirts, books, things like that. And we recently just started an Amazon store, so look out, world.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so that's the other thing. So there is a part of you that's like, you know, willing to put your create and put it out there for sale, right? Like some people just create for the fun of it, the hobby or whatever. You really do have sort of this, the more of the commercial ambition as well to what you create.
And I hope that all creatives will start to feel that way, because we really do bring quite a bit of value. And once you know your value, you can start charging for it. I didn't for a very long time, you know, and it is still fun to do things just for fun, but you know, we live in a society where we have to have money to live. So why not
Damn
out
it.
yeah, for
Yeah,
good.
exactly. Exactly. But I think that's really interesting because I look at like Etsy. I think Etsy is just, I mean, it's so fantastic to have all of these incredibly creative people who can actually create and sell it. I mean, it's just, I love that. I love that ability to do that. And I think it's cool that Amazon's getting there. But I mean, I do think that if you're going to create art, obviously there's things that we create for ourselves, but it's awesome to be able to give it to others.
Etsy's done a great job from a brand perspective to really honoring artists and staying true to artists. And, you know, even like from a media buying standpoint, you can advertise. Think about it. You're a small business owner. You're an artist. You don't have any money for ad budget. Etsy actually will pay for your ad and only charge you once you've made a sale.
That's
And then
awesome.
they take a pretty big cut. But the point is that they really are kind of empowering that power to the people, and I like that.
I love that. I think that's amazing. What advice would you give to people who are, graduating from college, who want to get into sort of the creative part of advertising, marketing, media, or they're creative and they don't know what to do with it and how to make money? This is definitely an opportunity. I'd just be curious what advice you have for people.
Well, I would say pre-graduation intern, intern, intern. That is something that I really, I don't have too many regrets, but I wish that I had done more internships and sort of um, seen more the way different departments are run, seen more before I just chose a path. And then even post-graduation, cross-train, find mentors that maybe aren't exactly in your wheelhouse and try different things because turns out, a lot of us, we start a path, and especially creatives, that's not the path for us at all. It's just a way to get to the thing that want to do or wake up yearning to do.
Would you say, looking back, that do you feel like you led your path, or did your path lead you?
I think a little of both. I like to live my life with kind of a yes man attitude. Although recently, a colleague of mine told me maybe I need to say no a little bit more.
The
Uh,
power of no. It's
but
true. Boundaries.
but with saying yes and just kind of being open to different kinds of opportunities and learning opportunities, you'd be amazed at the things you'll find yourself in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great. And it's funny because, when you're talking about internships, I keep telling my son who's in college, he's got to get internships because it's the best way to realize what's out there. Like I see, I'm on a lot of these message boards and on Reddit and, Facebook groups. And I see these young people who are like, I'm majoring in X, Y, and Z. I don't know what to do. Like I just saw somebody say, I want to get into digital marketing. I have no idea what that means. And that's, it's like, what do I do in that? And the opportunities are amazing, but if you intern somewhere and you start to see the different parts of the business, you can say, oh, I actually like this part a little bit more and I like than this part, and you start to really know yourself. But I think what you said earlier about the early Sara and the Sara today, that's the evolution, right? And that when we first start out, we have to remember that so much more is going to happen and we're going to evolve in who we are, what we're talented at, what we're good at, what we're not good at, or what we like and what we don't like.
And just meet as many people back, intern, it will open doors for you, right? But just meet as many people as you can. Join trade associations. Um, we have a colleague driven, career driven. It's Susie Perez, actually, and I just want to plug her for a quick second because she actually works with people leaving college or trying to pivot in their careers. And this idea of owning your personal brand and really knowing what makes you different in a sea of people, and then go to Atheneum Collective, power up, watch all the courses that you can, go to YouTube on the weekends, just learn because you never know when it's going to come in.
No, I totally agree. I think having a growth mindset and constantly learning and, doing more is always good. Do you find that you always have to keep learning on the creative side?
Always, especially the technology, which is good because this is not something that I thought I would be doing, going to be a graphic designer. Of course, it was kind of a new career at that time, but it changes every year, and
Yeah.
algorithms for marketing, everything's changing constantly. So you can't get too complacent. That's for sure.
I think it goes back to, and I think you and I both have this, is this, another reason why I think we like digital marketing is this idea of adventure, right? Like we would be bored if things were always the same. The fact that they're always different and that they keep changing and we have to keep up with it is what I think is what probably one of the reasons why we're both in this business.
I think so too. It keeps it exciting.
Yeah, exactly. If it was like, I think of some business, I'd be like, oh my God, there's no way I could keep doing it if it doesn't change.
Well,
Right?
say working brand side, it's great. I think there's a lot of learnings and everyone should try it. But for me as a creative, like I just can't be stuck with the same color palette for that long. So there's to be said for working at an agency and being able to work on different clients and projects and things.
Yeah, that's actually really true. I could see that, like, especially on the creative side of things.
I went from a company, I was there 10 years. Orange was our predominant color. And I immediately went to Home Depot after that. So no more.
Wow, you're really stuck in orange.
Really stuck in orange.
Now, do you use orange very often anymore?
Sometimes I like orange.
Right. Okay,
Just curious. Orange.
That's funny. What do you think are the big trends in creative for 2021?
Authenticity. I know that was a buzzword in 2020, but I do think we're going to continue to see, the memes and the user-generated content and the just people being goofy on TikTok. Because
I love TikTok. I think it's the best. I love it.
I'm not there yet, but
people are so creative.
Isn't your husband TikTok famous? I think I saw him with some champagne or something.
Oh yeah, he did do that for New Year's. It's the only thing we've ever done. But I get sucked in. I think it's amazing. I mean, that's talking about clever and creative. People are really clever and creative.
Well, and that's the thing. We're all creatives. We just maybe needed the right medium. Turns out billions of people needed TikTok. Who knew?
No, it's true. Okay, so authenticity. I see we have somebody who says consistency.
The roots, yes.
Yes. I think that's got to be Sean. Hi, Sean.
It's very true because, without brand consistency, even if the eye can't see it, the subtleties are there. Consistency, absolutely.
What else?
I think, again, to remember that we are here, well, maybe this is my own personal doctrine, but that we can use our power and our voices and our personal brands for good. So maybe more value-based marketing. Maybe we're giving away information. Maybe we're teaching people to fish in the hopes that they'll remember when they need dog food that we're the right people for them, whatever the case may be. But I think in this day and age, there's a lot of people struggling. We've had a hard time as humanity. So let's just give each other stuff and help each other,
I love that. I think that you're absolutely right. It's like it's both purpose driven and value driven.
Yeah.
And those positive values, both the values we have as people, but the value we give back to people. I think that is exactly what we need in 2021. And yes, Sean, love.
Love. All we need is love. That's right.
I love he's like, the world needs a hug. Oh, you're the best. It's so cute. Anyway, well, it's already like 12:40 and I know you have other things to do. I just want to thank you for joining me today, for having this conversation. I love doing this. I love talking to people. I hope that people, listen and they get, some nuggets and think about their own careers and things they could be doing and ways to be creative.
Well, thank you, Lisa. Thank you for having me. And if anyone out there listening just needs to run an idea, or, anything, I'm here for you.
Awesome. That's hopecreative.co. Or you can find Sara on Instagram. It's That Digital Magic, right?
Yes, our co-op is That Digital Magic. That's correct.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you, Lisa. Take care.
All right. Bye.